Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be reacting to Chapter 2 of the book Fuel by H.G. Tudor. The title of the chapter is How Do We Obtain Fuel? We're going to be learning here in this chapter about the strategies the narcissist uses to get their supply from their intimate partner. Their idea of a relationship is very different to that of an empath. An empath longs for intimacy and reciprocity. However, this togetherness would be very confronting for a narcissist, especially a narcissist who is without a conscience, as these are the type of narcissists we're talking about as we go through the book Fuel. In understanding this, you can help free yourself from the psychological prison where the empath is just not valued for who they are. They're simply a possession. And what we will also see is that this type of relationship is also out in society, and I will give an example of that later on. So now we're going to get into my reaction on how do we obtain our fuel. Quote, we're going to start with a quote from H.G. Tudor. It says, "The carefully constructed image that we show to you in the world is designed to do two things. The first is to harvest fuel. The second is, with the necessary assistance of the fuel, to keep the dark creature that lurks inside of us hidden away. The creature is the core darkness within them, who they really are. They create the illusion of being charming and friendly, and they do this so you will give them fuel." H.G. Tudor says flat out that he doesn't care about you. He just wants your admiration, your fuel. For instance, if he skips dinner and returns home late at night, as his partner you might want to question him. He will use your questioning to start an argument, because in his mind you have no right to question him. You're just his property. Once you get comfortable together, he starts the denigration phase. He will confine and enslave you. It is all a game to him and his sort. They will take the admiration and the idolatry, but they will quickly start causing you distress, anxiety, worry, and all kinds of misery. And the resulting negative fuel is what they want. And they want to get more for less. H.G. Tudor says, quote, "It may surprise you to find that we find negative fuel more edifying and invigorating than positive fuel." End of quote. The world is full of individuals who are either empathic and have a conscience, and those who are energy vampires, who have very little to no conscience. These narcissists have different brain structures to those of us who are empaths. As Tudor himself has suggested, they are a different species. These narcissists have no activity in the front part of the brain, the neocortex, where the conscience exists. But what they have are varying levels of advancement in that midbrain. You have low-functioning ones who are out there panhandling, and you have high-functioning ones who are presidents of various nations. These abusers have created a consensual reality where they dominate all the bottlenecks of power. In politics, banking, judiciary, and the media. They create a cohesive, quote-unquote, group think that William Blake called mind-forged manacles. William Blake opposed slavery, and for Blake, slavery was also a mental state, meaning that if one had limited perceptions, pursues materialistic ends, or sets oneself above others and follows conventional religion or science, then one is enslaved by mind-forged manacles of one's own making. His writings are from the early 19th century, 1798 to 1827, that is. And today's society is even more enslaved in a mechanical consciousness where the soul is neglected. It is the enslavement of people through their own misguided thinking. They do not question their own ideas and are on autopilot. So we have those without a conscience creating an emotionally vampiristic environment, and then you have those people, all those good people, who get caught up in it. They get caught up in, quote unquote, this is the way it's done. And they behave accordingly. So you find very good people who have a connection to conscience, sacrificing that conscience for money, for control, for power and position, from those who are the real power players. When they do comply, they experience shame and guilt because they have a conscience, which is then used against them by the very ones who lure them into a compromise in the first place. Consequently, the only people who are in danger of being manipulated are those who care. And those who care can be shamed. They invariably have somebody in the lower ranks they will pass the blame on to. In consensual reality, these ones are indoctrinated down through their family lineage, that they are a superior race and that they dominate every situation mentally. Their goal is to never even admit blame. They are willing to lie, cheat, and they often own the heads of police, lawyers, judges, and those will cover for them. And they get paid accordingly. David Icke has talked about those who are without a conscience and that they live in a different frequency to the ordinary people who are empathic. Empaths are living in a frequency where they resonate to love, happiness, freedom, and peace. It is difficult for empaths to understand those without a conscience because they generate maximum fear, anxiety, resentment, regret, and guilt. This is done purposefully to generate a negative response in those who have a tie to God. These ones are cut off from God and must feed off the empaths to sustain themselves. When empaths react and respond in kind by getting frustrated and angry, they are now resonating with the narcissist, sociopath, and psychopath. These ones then recognize that through their use of power, they have moved you to their preferred frequency. This is a win for them, an ego boost. We see this not only in personal relationships, but out in society as a whole. In 1998, libertarian socialist Noam Chomsky co-authored a book with Edward Herman called, quote-unquote, Manufacturing Consent. And here's a quote from an excerpt of this book. The quote is, "The mass media serve as a system of communicating messages and symbols to the general populace. It is their function to amuse, entertain, and inform, and to inculcate individuals with the values, beliefs, and codes of behavior that will integrate them into the institutional structures of the larger society. In a world of concentrated wealth and major conflicts of class interest, the fulfilling of this role requires systematic propaganda." End of quote. They use a technique called concision in their broadcasts on TV, where they use 2 sentences in between ads. It is said to be a powerful propaganda tool. They can say whatever they want against their enemies. The time frame is so short that they cannot be exposed. We have all seen those videos where the very same words and phrases are used by various news outlets throughout the country and even internationally. The elite dominate the media, and the media is usually owned by about 6 corporations. These are mega corporations. They control what you see, hear, and read. Through the systematic compartmentalization and filtering of news, many people on the lower level who are of goodwill do believe that they are being objective. Media is also a tool of the Secret Service agencies and corporate influencers. John Swinton, a prominent journalist and editor, made a speech about the lack of freedom in the press. The year was 1860, and he said, here's the quote, "The business of journalists is to destroy the truth, to lie outright, to pervert, to vilify, to fawn at the feet of Mammon, and to sell his country and his race for his daily bread. We are intellectual prostitutes." End of quote. So again, that was 1860. Many systems of the world are controlled by high-functioning narcissists without a conscience, and often without a soul. And so now I'm going to show you one of those videos. See it now.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about troublemaking and irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 So after that example, we're now going to come to the conclusion. As Tudor says, who doesn't delight in being complimented, listened to, and having someone make you the center of attention? Maybe this has happened to you, and in reading this exposure of how it is a constructed illusion, you will begin to understand how they operate and be alert to the red flags. As Tudor comments in one of his YouTube interviews, a room full of red roses after just 2 weeks is a red flag that empaths don't seem to pick up on. The narcissist's love-bombing courtship is followed by a devaluation phase. The narcissists are not doing this from a place of strength, but from a place of fear. And yet they have tremendous power to control, manipulate, and destroy, because this kind of visceral fear leaves them no choice. And when they dominate, the fear is replaced by the zest and the scornful joy of conquest. It is not real power, and they do not love you. They believe you are just their instrument, kind of like a coffee machine or a coffee maker. They just want to push buttons and get their fuel. You begin to understand that they themselves are robotic. They take every erg of energy that they can get, and they feel that their life depends on it, and that you owe it to them. As empaths, we receive sustenance from God and from loving and caring for one another. Do not waste your kindness on those who manipulate you and deny God in you, replacing it with a mechanical programming. Their God, that is with a lowercase g, is really Lucifer, and they in turn must feed this beast with a large portion of the energy that they steal from you. So our light goes to empower the dark side, and it is not done intentionally by the empath, at the conscious level anyway. Nevertheless, empaths are responsible with what they do with God's energy. It is cosmic law of cause and effect. It must be understood that the only one who can change the self is you. And so it is an exercise in taking back your own power as you understand who and what you are dealing with. This can enable you to take action to free yourself from this private, humiliating, and shaming relationship. As Greg Braden said, quote, "The Navajo tradition describes a way of looking at life that places responsibility for our happiness or suffering squarely upon our shoulders." And I wanted to use another quote to complete. It's 1 Peter 5:8. It says, and this is a warning basically for those in these types of relationships, because what they are bringing forth and moving the empath into is evil and is dark. It says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour." End of quote. So thank you very much for joining me, and I see you next time.